Mohammed Hijab has him on again. And this has to be probably the most damaging podcast, I think, to date in regards to the Durat and the destruction it caused.
The most damaging podcast to date in terms of dawah and the destruction it has caused.
Let's clarify what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's talking about the interview in which Mohammed Hijab and Yasser Qadhi talked, and Yasser Qadhi basically explained that there are problems in the standard narrative of the preservation of the Quran. This caused shock waves among Muslims and non-Muslims alike, and has caused a lot of damage, a lot of harm to Islam. People are leaving Islam because of that interview. People are doubting Islam because of that interview. Everyone was in shock for quite a while, and they still are. But you know what's funny? What this guy Sajid is not realizing here, he's pointing out that interview was very damaging to the Dawah scene and to Islam. It has caused so much damage. But what he's actually doing by pointing that out is to increase that damage and to cause even more damage. Because people who listen to him will go and be like, why was it so damaging? It will do even more damage. So
for those of you who haven't seen that, Qadhi was extremely careful. He was extremely careful. He didn't want to talk about it. Mohammed Hijab made him, and that's why we love you, Mohammed Hijab. These guys seem to want one Quran perfectly preserved right down to the letter. No difference anywhere in the entire manuscript history of the Quran. If you say anything other than that, you've been corrupted by the Orientalists, right? And it's so stupid, right? Go to Dan Brubaker's page. He's putting Quran manuscripts up on the screen. He's saying, look, here are 11 variants, textual variants on one page of a manuscript of the Quran. He's doing that. How do you look at that? Look at a page of a manuscript and see 11 differences from the Quran that you have and still say, nope, perfect preservation right down to the letter from the time of Muhammad. What Yasser Qadhi's doing is, and Qadhi used to spread the myth of perfect preservation. He's recognizing that the world is transitioning. There was a time when the Muslim community was insulated from hearing these outside criticisms. And at that point, the scholars could say whatever they wanted. They could say perfect preservation right down to the letter. And there was no one to challenge it there. Now people are being exposed to it. So people like Yasser Qadhi and Shabir Ali, they're trying to ease Muslims into reality on the issue of the Quran. And unfortunately for them, the Muslims who are raised on this strict diet of perfect preservation right down to the letter are flipping out and trying to destroy them over it. So it's just it's a pretty sad situation, but man, is it fun to watch.
That has been like the main talking point when I give da'wah to people.
The main talking point.
Specifically. I mean, the damage it caused, subhanAllah, it's beyond words.
This is no joke, brothers and sisters.
This is amazing stuff here.
Everybody who is doing that, everybody who is spreading the holes in the standard narrative.
This is not a joke.
You're doing an awesome job, everybody.
That's apparently how he became a Muslim. He concluded that the Quran has been perfectly preserved right down to the letter. How did he conclude that? Did he go around comparing manuscripts? Did he study the history of the Quran according to even Muslim sources? No, he heard it. He heard this, he mindlessly believed it without investigating, and then all of his confidence in his religion was based on that, which is a complete lie. And then at no point did he ever bother to actually seriously investigate this, which was, again, the entire basis for his confidence in Islam. He then went out and used this in his dawah to Christians. You Christians, your book has textual variants. In the Quran, there are no textual variants. Not one anywhere. Perfect preservation right down to the letter. It's a miracle. Alhamdulillah.
The truth is so hard.
Yeah. And then basically someone like Yasser Qadhi comes out and it's, let's face it, what Yasser Qadhi's interview is, guys, we're living in a difficult time of technology where if I tell you the truth about the Quran right now, I will get blasted by all of you for destroying your faith. But if I go ahead and continue the lie like I used to do in the past, I'm going to get laughed out of academia. Because if I say something as insane and stupid as perfect preservation right down to the letter, I will never be able to show my face at another academic conference again, because they will all know that I'm a liar and I will have the reputation of a horribly dishonest person. That's what he put out there, right? And so it's just, oh yes, keep your confidence. We're working on a solution, but there's some holes in the narrative. And then he can't take it, right? This would destroy my faith. This would destroy my faith. And what's the solution? We have to marginalize people like Yasser Qadhi, represent him as some sort of heretic or something like that, someone you should never listen to. That's what you're left with. And notice he's complaining. Oh, and now when I do my dawah, I can't even do my dawah anymore. I go to the Christians and I say, Christians, did you know that your book's been changed, but there's only one Quran anywhere? No difference anywhere in any manuscript. And they go, yeah, what about Yasser Qadi over there? No, I can't take it. Why the Yasser Qadi? Right, guys, look, I'm just going to,
fantastic.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the issue, I'm going to give you both sides real quick, right? Has the Bible been corrupted? Anytime you have human beings copying large books by hand, you're going to get textual variants. The vast majority of things that can't even be translated, right? They're like spelling differences and things like that, where the word John, for instance, in Greek can be spelled with one N or two N's. Well, guess what? You'll find a bunch of manuscripts that spell John with one N, and you'll find a bunch of manuscripts that spell John with two N's. Those are textual variants. Those count as differences, right? What you never ever have is something that would undermine a Christian doctrine. None of the differences would undermine any important Christian doctrine. Right? So that's what you can say and not be either completely ignorant or a liar. Guess what? If that's what you mean by corruption, because that's not what I mean by corruption. If that is what you mean by corruption, you say that's what corruption is, guess what? The Quran's been corrupted. Do you have tons of textual variants in the manuscript history of the Quran? Yep, lots of them. Lots and lots and lots of them. You have tons of textual variants. So if that's what you mean by corruption, then your book's been corrupt. If your definition of corruption is, well, if you have some disputes about what goes into there, guess what? Abdullah ibn Masud said there are 111 chapters in the Quran. Ubay ibn Ka'b said there are 116 chapters in the Quran. And the Quran you have today has 114 chapters. Did they have disputes? Yes. Yes. According to Abdullah ibn Masud, Surah 1, Surah 113, Surah 114 aren't supposed to be in the Quran. Those are Muslim prayers. They're not supposed to be. That's Muslims talking to Allah, not Allah talking to Muslims. And then Ubay ibn Ka'b, he said, nope, you got these 114, but you actually have two additional chapters that aren't in there. Those are two additional prayers. Do you have disagreements about some of the contents? Yes. Now, what would a Muslim say? But even though you have that, it doesn't affect any major Christian doctrine. That's Shabir Ali's response now. Yes, even though you have different versions of the Quran around the world, it's not something that would affect any Muslim doctrine. You're saying exactly what Christians say. This just comes down to an issue of consistency, right? This comes down to consistency. If you're saying that the Bible's been corrupted because of those issues, then great, the Quran's been corrupted. Alternatively, if you're saying that the Quran has not been corrupted, then you shouldn't say the Bible's been corrupted either. But what Muslims want to do is say the Quran hasn't been corrupted, perfectly preserved right down to the letter, but the Bible's been corrupted because it has the same issues that we find in the Quran. But we've been lying about it for so long, whereas Christians have been honest about it for so long, that we can't get our minds around anything other than the lie. And notice, guys, because I'm talking to you Muslims who are watching, this should bother you. Why is it that you can walk into any Christian bookstore right now? I can pull any Bible off my shelf right now and go to the footnotes, and it'll say, there is a textual variant in this verse. There's a textual variant in this passage. It tells me. We do not hide that. You can go into any Christian bookstore and find entire books on textual criticism. We do not hide that. Our scholars do not hide that. Our scholars do not try to keep people insulated from reality. You go over to Islam and your scholars lie to you your entire lives. They pretend it. You don't go into a Muslim bookstore and find this. You don't find these notes at the bottom of your Quran saying, look at all these, there's a textual variant here, there's a textual variant there. Somehow it's like we want the lie. And you see this from Sajid, right? I want the lie. The lie is what convinced me that Islam is true. The lie is what I use for my dawah. I cannot stand these Christians who now have to tell me the truth about my religion. You keep telling me the truth and I can't take it. I hate this. It's making me uncomfortable. If your confidence in Islam is based on the amazing preservation of the Quran, I go to your sources and I read about entire chapters coming up missing. You can check it out. Sahih Muslim, 2286. Abu Musa talks about 2 entire chapters of the Quran coming up missing. Aisha said that more than 100 verses came up missing just from Surah 33. Ubay ibn Ka'b said it was even more. He said it was over 200 verses that came up missing. Aisha talks about verses being eaten by a sheep. You can go to the different qira'at and see differences even in the Qurans you have today. What possible basis could you have for believing the Quran's been perfectly preserved? The only way you could even defend a stupid, idiotic claim like that would be to have the original and to have all the manuscripts and to show all of the manuscripts ever line up perfectly with that original. That's the only way you could maintain perfect preservation. But you can't do that because that's not true.